I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 145. If you don't already know, I'm Kev Chardello, coming to you on Tuesday, November 21st, and the Red Wolves just scored again. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to talk about this one. 77-31. Texas State lost on Saturday. Absolutely embarrassing. 2 pick sixes in the fourth quarter. I mean, the game was well out of hand before that, but just an extra little slap in the face. But we'll talk about that via mailbag. We've got a great mailbag. You guys were pretty tame. I appreciate that. Excited to get to your questions. Talking about that one last game on the football season. We'll talk about that as well. But this episode is brought to you by TGC, the Galindo Collective, TGC LLC, the GalindoCollective.com, Galindo, GalindoCollective.com, a team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people, planning, and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com. Follow their social media platforms on Twitter at TGC_LLC and on Instagram and Facebook at the Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy over there, Rick Galindo, true Texas State sicko, a Texas State grad himself, sponsored us through the whole season. Hit him up for any of your needs at thegalindocollective.com. We are also brought to you by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, the most experienced F-Wave roofing contractor in Central Texas. F-Wave is a highly impact-resistant lifetime shingle with stunning designer curb appeal. It is the only roofing product on the market with an exclusive hail warranty. That hail warranty is as good as gold here in Central Texas. Gotta have it. Save you the headache of dealing with insurance, having guys on your roof fixing it all the time. You'll already be protected with that F-Wave. So hit up my guy, Carl Larson, a converted Gamecock, now with the good guys in the maroon and gold. Hit him up at balconesroofsaustin.com. That's BALCONES, balconesroofsaustin.com, 512-937-8805. It's 512-937-8805. And follow him on X at Balcones Roofing, or Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You know our next sponsor. It's our guy, Thaddeus Watkins, San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor, former Texas State offensive lineman. Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situation change? When you work with Thaddeus Watkins, your San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. Contact Thaddeus Watkins at 737-373-8200. That's 737-373-8200, and at edwardjones.com/Thaddeus-Watkins. And on X, Twitter, at Big Thad, BIGGTHADD_. Shout out to Thad Watkins. Who better to protect your finances than a former Texas State offensive lineman? Hit him up. And we are also sponsored by Austin Patchmaster, our good friends over at austin.patchmaster.com. Is your ceiling or wall cracked? Need that popcorn ceiling removed? Did you punch a hole in your walls after the Bobcats allowed 77 points to the Arkansas State Red Wolves? Well, hit up my guy, Michael Clements. He can help you out. He's a Texas State grad, a true Texas State sicko. They are servicing the greater Austin area, especially San Marcos. But if you live in Houston, Dallas, they can hit you with the referral and get you set up in those areas. So get that crack ceiling fixed. Get those holes out of your walls out of the way by hitting up my guy, Michael Clements and Austin Patchmaster at austin.patchmaster.com. And you can call them at 512-200-3888. It's 512-200-3888. And a quick shout out to my guys at Chilsey, chilsey.com, CHILLZEY.com. Custom koozies, custom tumblers, whatever you're looking for. We got some. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, Win Now or Get Bent on YouTube, you're seeing me hold up some koozies and a tumbler with the Win Now or Get Bent logo on them. You can get a Win Now or Get Bent logo. You can get whatever logo you want. If you have a company logo, if it's a family reunion, if it's a bachelor party, whatever you got, and you want some custom gear for all that, hit up my guys at chilsey.com. It's a Bobcat-owned business. True sicko over there, Dennis Redding. If you order 6 or more tumblers, custom tumblers, and you punch in Bobcats at your checkout, they're $15 each. So it's a really good deal. Awesome tumbler, keeps your drinks nice and cool or hot. You know, if you want to fill up a hot beverage in there, it'll do the trick as well. But chilsey.com, hit them up. One more game. I got a few more of these koozies. Some of you have DM'd me and I've already reserved yours, so I'll get them to you at the next game. But shout out to Chilsey for allowing us the opportunity to hand out these koozies this season. And check out the merch site, WNOGB.com. I've got the Sicko shirt on today. That was actually by accident. I just woke up and put it on. And I was getting ready for the pod. I was like, oh, I'm already wearing one. Perfect. So there you go. I love this Sicko shirt. We're going to be introducing some more gear in the off season. But for right now, we got mugs. We've got sweaters. We've got lots of good stuff on there. So WNOGB.com. Go check it out. Okay, let's get to these Bobcats. Man, it feels like I got to jump through an obstacle course before I get to these Bobcats. You know, with the ads. Thank you so much to the ads and the sponsors this year. It's been terrific. I know I was doing a peek at some of the questions just to make sure I don't step on anything in the open, and one of them was about the growth of the pod this year and had me thinking about it, and that's a big part of it. The sponsors really put us on. And when we first started getting them, I always shout out Austin Patchmaster. I'll give them another little plug. They were one of our first ones in the spring. And that was a big moment, I know, for the Wizard and I when we started to get sponsors. It was like, okay, maybe we're on to something here. We're still on to something. It's a lot of fun. Even though the Bobcats football team, I should say, real disappointing on Saturday. That was... I mean, I have volleyball and basketball written here to talk about, and I will, but that had to have been, that's up there, one of the most embarrassing losses Texas has ever had. I mean, it's the most points they've ever let go. They lost 75-0 to Baylor in 1916. This was the most points anybody has scored besides that. I think it was 72 points allowed in New Mexico in 2003, somewhere around there. This was pretty embarrassing. It was up there with the 45-0 loss, Louisiana, a couple years ago. Remember that? Don Coryell wrote a whole note about we will be better. After that whole loss, that was a bad one. Incarnate Word was also bad, same year. That one's pretty embarrassing to lose like that to a conference opponent in the 11th game of the season. Absolutely embarrassing. But anyways, I digress. I will get to more of that here in a sec. Let's talk volleyball for a sec. More bad news because they lost. They lost to James Madison. No Sun Belt Championship again for volleyball this year. They fought hard. Season is over. They finished 20-9. Really respectable season after losing so many great players. Chanel Fitzgerald, Emily DeWalt. Sean Hewitt still got them right. He's got a lot of freshmen on this team, so I think that they're going to be back next year. So shout out to volleyball. Good season. Men's basketball beat UTSA. Gotta love that. Only had 8 players also. That was on Friday night before the football game. It's still tough to watch this team. It's exciting when you see that it's like, 8 players and they're playing really hard. They're doing great stuff in the paint. Christian Turner, Brandon Love, with the guard play, Josh O'Gara was doing really good. I like what I'm seeing from Caden Gums as well, young guy. There's just not enough of them with 5 guys out. I mean, it was 4 before. I feel like last time we talked about it. Tyrell Morgan is out now. He went down after the Miami of Ohio game, apparently. So that's another key player, guy in the paint who's out for this basketball team. I mean, because listen to them out. We got Drew Drennan. He's out. Point guard, been here for years. Very valuable senior leadership right there. Jordan Mason, shooter. He's out. Colton Benson, he was a really highly touted transfer, local kid from Austin Bowie. Really good three-point shooter transferring in from Army, but he may have a transfer waiver issue, so he may not even be able to play this year. I mentioned Morgan already. It's a tough go for men's basketball. Davian Sykes, the young guy, he's not going to be back till January. We saw him start to come on last year, but they're missing some key players. And, hopefully they get some of these guys back before a conference play starts. It's kind of a good time being non-conference, and the opponents aren't necessarily that tough. In fact, thinking back on it, I can remember complaining about, like, man, can we get a real opponent non-conference? Now I'm looking at it like, okay, this is pretty good. I'm glad that there's some easy teams coming up. I think I saw Jarvis something university that I'd never heard of. I was like, okay, well, but then again, this team lost to Our Lady of the Lake in Austin a few years back, or in San Antonio, I should say. Yeah, a lot of players out. They play McNeese State tonight. Today's Tuesday. I'm recording this. They're playing McNeese State tonight. Women's basketball, 3-0. Looking good. 66-63 win over UTRGV over the weekend. I talked a little bit about Janiah Hinson before the game, or on the last pod. She popped off again, another 19 points over UTRGV. Fun team. They just had I think they have one more home game. They're starting the season 4 straight home games. I didn't write down their next opponent for some reason, but they may have already played that 4th one. I'd stop to look it up, but we've got a lot to go over here. But shout out to women's basketball, crushing it. Coach Z, never a doubt. And the presidential debate coming to Texas State, I should say, specifically, not just Texas. That's interesting, fascinating, big for this place. I mean, that's going to put a lot of eyes on Texas State, for better or for worse. I mean, I don't know. I think it's for better because people will just be looking at the Texas State, not the. I don't think anybody will heap any of the political blame on any of the people here at this university, but it'll at least get this place on the map a little bit on national spotlight. We talk about how sports is the front page of a university. Well, dang, getting on the national scene on a debate is a pretty big front porch as well. So a lot of people will see this place with that, but that's not until 2024, September 2024. September, I think 16th. Is there a game on that day? Oh, see, now I'm concerned. Now I need to check that out. We'll do that later. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about. We've got a mailbag, and these mailbags always go long. And our faithful wizard, the wizard Zachary Webb, is feeling much better. Still testing positive. He's feeling much better though, so he's willing to edit. But I'm gonna make it not make it an hour and a half mailbag for him to edit this time. And the best way to do that is to get back on track with the segments. Let's do that. Let's recap this game real fast. I don't want to talk about it a ton. We're going to talk about a lot in the questions, obviously, but we'll recap it. 77-31. If you heard episode 142, you heard me interview Tyler Huff. If you didn't hear that, go listen to that. It's probably my favorite interview I've done. It was a great interview. But he said he tweeted after the game that Texas State got Jackson Stated because the Bobcats led up 77. It's kind of, interesting little deal where we were celebrating 77 points in week 3. Now in week 11, I don't even want to see the number 77 again. My birthday's on July 7th. I don't even want to look at my birthday right now. I just don't even want to think about that. But it's actually wrong because Texas State didn't get Jackson Stated because Jackson State at least put up 34 points. Texas State only managed 31. So it's actually worse. It's worse than that. 42 unanswered points from the second quarter to 12 seconds left in the third quarter. Weird game to lose by 46 points. And, even just saying the number 46, thinking back to that Louisiana loss, 45-0. That was a big loss by 45 points. This one was by more points, although they got shut out that game. Still, 46-point loss in conference. A 46-point loss in a game where they outgained the opponent 539 yards to 487. They had 32 first downs compared to Arkansas State's 23 first downs. Texas State only had 6 penalties this week. After having 12 last week, only 6 this week compared to Arkansas State's 9. They owned time of possession, 34 minutes to 26. Texas State was 3 for 4 on fourth down, 7 for 16 on third down. all of that, like, that doesn't seem that, like, when you look at that, you're like, well, how did they, like, I could see how a team could lose with those stats, but how did they get blown out? Absolutely annihilated, 77-31, and still checked off all these categories in the box score. What happened? Texas State, I mean, they led 17-14 with 12 minutes left in the first half. They did it again. It was a 7th straight game where they've scored on the opening drive. What is it? The 6th straight game with the touchdown, opening drive touchdown. They were up 10-7 again, and it was weird because that 10-7 number, I saw it again in this game, and I was like, that 10-7. They went up 10-7 against Coastal. That 10-7 never feels good to me. It's like they start fast and get a touchdown, and then you could see it start to sputter and stall and turn into a drive turns into a field goal. But yeah, and that was, they were up 17-14. They were up 10-7. They go up 17-14 after the Joey Hobart touchdown. So they're still, leading in the second half. It's like, okay, this is going to be a respectable game, possibly a shootout. It seemed like they were going back and forth because that Hobart touchdown was pretty early in the second quarter. But then Arkansas State, they came back down, scored 21-17. The Denario Davenport fumble, which was bad, man. And I've been praising him as the second back that's emerged. The issues with him early in the season were fumbles. That creeped back up this game. I still like Davenport. He's still been he managed some yards after that fumble. I still wonder what's going on with that running back room. I don't know what's going on with Calvin Hill. Doesn't even seem like he's on the team anymore. But yeah, that fumble, obviously that led to another touchdown. And then, because I was like, okay, well, there were some really bad turnovers in the second half. Was this just a game where it was just turnovers and the Bobcats just gave them the ball all the time? And it really wasn't. Because, from that point, there was the Davenport fumble, which led to a touchdown. That made it 28-17. They then increased the lead 49-17 before they got another turnover. Arkansas State is who I'm talking about here. They rattled off 42 straight points from the second to the third quarter. It wasn't until the 91-yard fumble return for a touchdown that made it 56-17. So this game was out of hand before the turnovers even started happening. But like I said, 49-17, they rattled off a bunch of touchdowns. Jacquez Cross, a name we'll probably all always remember. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, I'm pretty sure. All their touchdowns were on the ground, too. Just bullied on the line, bullied all over the place by this team that, going into it, and even watching it, I was like, this is an inferior team that they're just letting work them like this. But then you look more into Arkansas State, and you see how well their recruiting has been the last few years, and it's been a slow build, but it's building. They've got some dudes starting with that quarterback, and there's a lot of focus on the quarterback. Let the running backs handle it, though. But, yeah, 49-17. It was a 91-yard fumble return. TJ Finley fumbled the ball. Texas State finally scores, though. They finally score. Cole Wilson touchdown right before the third quarter. Ensuing kickoff with basically no time left on the clock before the fourth quarter. Cross runs it back for a touchdown. So they had a fumble return touchdown, then a kickoff return touchdown, and then consecutive pick 6 touchdowns. Consecutive. This was an epic collapse. Because the craziest part of the collapse happened after 42 unanswered points from Arkansas State. That's what's crazy. They went on a 42-point run, and none of it was the pick 6s or the kickoff return. Those were after. This was bad. This was an epic collapse. It wasn't because of turnovers. It wasn't because they couldn't get any yards. It wasn't, they weren't tackling very well. They weren't doing very well in that department, but even when you saw, I was just talking about Cross on the kickoff return. Besides that kickoff return, if it was a punt return, if it was a kickoff return, wasn't very many punts. I think Bobcats only punted one time. That was the other thing. It wasn't, they were getting first downs, 32 first downs. Like I was saying, they were moving the ball. This was, but even they'd kick it to Arkansas State and they'd get yards, even if they're not running it back for 83 yards for a touchdown like Cross did. He finally broke one. They were getting yards every return. And they were getting dumb penalties. Arkansas State was. Dumb penalties. I think they had 2 targetings. So there's one answer, there's one explanation, and I hate to say it because I still really like G.J. Kinney, I really like this staff. Bad coaching. This team was not prepared. They were not ready for this game. See, it feels like they jumped in the river and checked out. And there's still 3 games left since that. And that was a great moment. I was there. I jumped in the river with them. It was awesome. But it's like everybody forgot that there's a whole season left. There's a postseason left. Humbling loss. Maybe this team needed to be humbled after jumping in the river in week 9, because now it doesn't seem like as much fun, doesn't it? After 2 straight losses, it sure doesn't to me. Still an awesome moment. That was still a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't mean to be so bitter about it. It was cool. It was cool jumping in the river. It was a long time coming for this place. But got to remember where you're at. Snap back into it. This season is not done. It is not. The bowl is not guaranteed. I have a little section on that, and I noticed there was a question about it, so I'll probably open with that question. It's still a very, very, very good chance. A very, very good chance. A 7th win makes the chance even better. But we'll go into that one a little bit more. But this team has got to figure it out. And there's a lot of talk, and I'm guilty of it. A lot of talk about G.J. Kinney being a candidate for a lot of these coaches. We've seen the Mississippi State article where they're writing about him being a candidate there. And granted, that's their job when you lose a coach. I've been there in the whole coaching search situation. When you're making content, you gotta break down the candidates. You gotta keep things going, keep things fresh, especially when it's a down year and people aren't that into clicking or tuning in and stuff. You have to give them something to draw them in. So G.J. Kinney is, whether it's a loose candidate or what, they're at least kicking his name around there. The Jeff Traylor thing I talked about, that's still important, but it feels like this team got too high on its horse and forgot to focus with a lot of it. I don't know what's going on with TJ Finley. He went from somebody I don't even know if he has draft stock right now. I mean, I was talking about him being a draftable quarterback, and it's dwindled slowly since then, ever quickly on Saturday. After this Saturday, the consecutive pick 6s. I mean, 3 defensive touchdowns, all of them on Finley. That's not great. And it's interesting because even when you talk to G.J. Kinney about Finley, you feel a little I don't know, almost like a little wedge or something. It was like when I asked him about his kids, because TJ Finley just had twins. His wife had twins, and he said, "Oh, that's his business," and then didn't expand on it further. I don't know. I have a weird feeling that Finley might be out, whether it's going to the NFL or transferring. I mean, he's a grad transfer, so he could still do it. But it feels a little bit like that writing's on the wall, which is a shame. I still think he's a terrific player. I think he still has a good shot at the NFL. I mean, he had one play on Saturday where he had 2 guys on his back, and he still completed a short pass. I mean, that's still great. But he did the things that all the salty Auburn fans, whenever TJ Finley came over, and he forces throws. Oh, he does this. Forces throws was the main thing. He forces those throws. He can't move. I think he's disproven the move thing. He's not the fastest quarterback, but he sort of use his legs a little bit more. But he's been forcing those throws. And even on the first touchdown that he had, it looked like he was going to start taking off for a run down the middle, and then he stopped and threw it. And it was a great play. It got there, but it was a forced throw, and that one ended up being a touchdown. The other ones didn't. I still think he has a lot to work on. I think he's a terrific quarterback. But that's a situation I got my eye on with TJ Finley. Especially we saw PJ Hatter posting his high school highlights after a big loss. What does that mean? I think there's a question about that, so I'll unpack that more with there. But let's jump into the mailbag. Let's do this. Lots of questions. Commend y'all for the questions. I appreciate that. Usually I'd wait till closer to the end of the month, but there was a lot of requests for one. You guys want to be heard this time, so let's do it. And perfect. I guess the first one is this next week's game on ESPN Plus? No, it's on NFL Network. I don't think our guy Jeff Moffitt meant for that to be a Win Now or Get Bent question, but you made the show, man. Hope you're listening. Jeffrey Moffitt 5 on X if you want to go find him. This is from our guy, Myrtle Beach, Doug Peterson. What's up? I know he's rooting for the Bull to be in Myrtle Beach. With the deficit of our past 2 losses, Coastal and Arkansas State, are we in danger of not being chosen again for a bowl if we were to lose this weekend? It's a possibility. It's not a great possibility. I think the Bobcats, especially considering the attendance that they've shown, they even where they rank, like on the they're still 64th, which it's nowhere near the top 25 or anything, but it's still higher than a lot of these other 5-win teams. Because I made a list. I was going to talk about it, and I saw that question. I was like, perfect, because I made a list of 5-win teams. I saw Hunter Schuler put out a graphic as well. Hunter Schuler, I know he's a sicko. He's listening. Hopefully he's listening here. He put out a good graphic with all the teams that are playing this weekend, which is pretty cool. But here's our 5-win team. So here's how it goes. There are 68 teams that are bowl eligible. There are 82 teams that are going to go to a bowl game this year. Now, with 1 weekend left, that means there's 14 spots they need to fill, but there are 24 teams that have 5 wins. So if 15 of those teams win, there's a chance the Bobcats might be left out. I don't think they will, especially when you get to the bottom of this list. If they get a 6th win, the Bobcats would get in over some of these programs. Some of them they wouldn't, and they're at the top of my list. But let's go through them. So basically here, before I start the list, you can root for 14 of these teams to win, and then you want the other 10 to lose. Actually, you know what? I think we're down to 13-9 because Army and Navy play each other, and they're 5-5. So looking at that, so there you go. But so pick and choose anybody you want to root for or root against on this list. Have fun with it. Have fun with it this weekend. Don't let it stress you out, because I'm gonna tell you what, if some wild scenario where all 24, or I guess it would be 23, somebody's got to lose versus Army versus Navy, which is nice. You don't have to pick against the troops. Personally, I'm probably gonna go Navy. I just had Tyler Huff on the pod. He's an ex-sailor. My dad's an ex-sailor, so probably got to go Navy. But support America, so we're gonna root for both sides. Virginia Tech, they are 5-6, and they are playing Virginia this weekend. Illinois 5-6, they are playing Northwestern. Nebraska 5-6. Now, obviously, these teams that I'm reading out first would probably get a bowl over the Bobcats as a 6-win team. These are pretty big programs. But Nebraska, they have Iowa this week, so let's go Hawkeyes. Minnesota, I saw one bowl projection in the Frisco Bowl was Texas State versus Minnesota, actually, which would be interesting. Gophers versus Bobcats. Minnesota's 5-6, they're playing Wisconsin. Central Florida's 5-6, they're playing Houston, downtrodden Houston team. Need the Cougars to pull it together. TCU is 5-6. How about that? Long way from that national championship. And they're at OU, so we can root for the Sooners this weekend. And this is right where Texas State is ranked on the national. If you look at lists where it's all 130 plus teams are ranked, Texas State is 64th. Where I was saying it's right after TCU at 63, and right before BYU at 65. They are also 5-6, and they are at Oklahoma State this weekend. Syracuse is 5-6. They are playing Wake Forest. Our good buddy Jake Spavital at Cal. They're 5-6. They're at UCLA. Let's go Bruins. We didn't even need the bowl eligibility on the line for that one. South Carolina's 5-6. They're playing Clemson. Washington State is 5-6. They're playing Washington. It's a rivalry for sure, but Washington's pretty good. They might be a wagon with Penix. Mississippi State is 5-6. They're playing Ole Miss. Mississippi State, is this the new school that a lot of y'all are mad at? Some of that they're really coveting G.J. Kinney over there, aren't they? Or at least maroonandwhite.com is. Marshall, Sunbelt Alert, they're 5-6, and they have Arkansas State. Return the favor, Red Wolves, huh? It was really nice of the Bobcats to they just rolled over. You're our dear friends. You're our neighbors. States touch each other and wanted you to be in the party in the bowl game. Wanted you to set records for your program. Return the favor. Beat Marshall. That's what we need from you, Red Wolves. Louisiana 5-6, team that beat the Bobcats. They are playing a team that the Bobcats beat this weekend with ULM. Colorado State, they're 5-6. They're at Hawaii. Long travel. Hopefully a loss there for them. Utah State, they're playing New Mexico State. Shout out to New Mexico State. Old Dominion, another Sun Belt team. They're 5-6. They're playing Georgia State. South Florida 5-6. They're playing Charlotte. Rice 5-6, playing FAU. I'd love Tech State versus Rice in a bowl. I feel like they're kindred spirits. You know, one's an academic school, one's more so a party school. I don't know. Some people get bothered when you say that. So they're on different ends of the spectrum. But as far as football supremacy, they're about even. Central Michigan 5-6. They're playing Toledo. Army at Navy, talked about that one, and then Navy at Army. Northern Illinois, 5-6, they're at Kent State. And last one on the list, Eastern Michigan, 5-6 at Buffalo. But okay, let's say some wacky world, 23 of these teams win. That would leave 10 teams out. There's a lot of these teams that I think the Bobcats would get in a bowl over. Not the whole list, but definitely the last 6, 7 that I read. So I think it would have to be pretty close to all of these teams winning for the Bobcats to be left out of the party. It's just not likely, but it would be incredible. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I have that list there. I'm going to be checking it off as soon as teams lose. As soon as I get to number 10, we'll pop the champagne, okay? But I guess I'm not overly concerned. There is some concern. There is a little bit there because we've been there. We've been down this road. 2014, this happened to Texas State. 2014, though, there was way less bowls. I know in 2013, there was 35 bowls. In 2014, there was 39. I say way less. Now there's 41, but there's still more bowl games. If there was 41, then Bobcats would have been in because there was 3 teams that got left out. So I'm not too concerned there. They still, no need to leave any doubt. Get a win this weekend. I think the fan base needs a win. I think this team needs a win. I think everybody here needs a win this weekend over South Alabama, tough opponent. Okay, here we go. We got Baseball Nut. My guy, Baseball Nut. What's up, Drew? Good to hear from you. We have had a much better season than we've had in many years. Along some success comes higher expectations. Do you think everybody needs to calm down? What is your prediction as to which bowl we are going to? Maybe there's some people on the extremes, and I'm not really, taking them into account. I saw a few Fire Kinney posts, which is just absurd. Come on, get out of here. That's the booze is flowing a little heavy on Saturday for some of y'all, and you get pretty emotional. But for the most part, I think it's been an appropriate response. This was an embarrassing loss, an unacceptable loss. This was a really bad game, and it should hurt to see that. At the same time, the season's not over. It's one game. This is still 6 wins. It's still way better than 2 or 3 that we've seen in years past. It's a lot of fun. That was one of the worst losses I've ever seen, even throughout the dark times. That was pretty bad. But I think this might be something this team needed. Maybe it needed to be humbled a little bit, and reminded that this isn't over. Season's not done. So I think maybe people need to calm down now, which they have. On Saturday, be upset. While it's happening and everything. I totally understand that. But now looking on it, it's like, okay, It's actually been a really fun season. It's been a successful season for Texas State. G.J. Kinney's still a terrific coach. He's still popping up when people are talking about coaches. Although now they're looking at that game, scratching their head. Like, what was that? Unprepared team. That wasn't great. If there's a glass half full, maybe he's back next year because of losses like that. Undisciplined team. Just saying. Bowl game, I'm still hoping for Frisco. Seems like Frisco Bowl really likes Texas State, at least the Twitter account. So I'm rooting for Frisco. I said earlier, somebody said Minnesota. They're on that list of 5-win teams. Texas State versus Minnesota. I'd love Texas State versus a Texas team, but Minnesota or Frisco. That's my bowl prediction. And yeah, be calm now. But I understand the emotions after that one. That was bad. That was a bad loss, and that was like Coastal. I mentioned it. The 12 penalties. That was a weird game. There was some funkiness going on there. Saturday was all Bobcats. I can't pin it on anybody else except the players and the coaches for that loss. That was bad. Still a really good team. Having a lot of fun watching this team. Let's see. Next season, here we go. Matthew Gonzalez at Matthew G007. What's up, Matthew? Hope you're well, my guy. Next season, Texas State is lighting up the Sun Belt, and game day makes a trip to San Marcos. Who is your celebrity guest picker? I'm going with Shawn Michaels. Oh, and then we have Brandon Beversdorf below saying George Strait, Randy Rogers, or Paul Goldschmidt would be good too. George Strait's on the top of my list there. I mean, it's got to be. It's got to be George Strait. Shawn Michaels, I get it, wrestler and everything, but George Strait, that's the guy that everybody knows. And I like this attitude. This is the good way to see it. And that's what I mean. And so, baseball nuts saying should everybody calm down. Seems like everybody has calmed down a little bit. It's like, okay, that was bad. That was embarrassing. Hey man, I'm the one. I had the prediction going into it that they're gonna work them. What did I say? 45-31. I had 31 right, but it was for Texas State, and the other guys scored 77. Boy, oh boy. Humbled everybody, even the podcasters. Thank you, Matthew, for that one. This one is from Sean RDZ. At Sean, not Sean, 1 on Twitter. Not SEAN. Or it is SEAN, not SHAWN. There we go. I got that. South Alabama has been up and down this season. Do you think we pull the upset? I'll be honest, I haven't dove into it enough to give a full, confident assessment. I'm gonna have a preview one where I'll have it there. Right now, the feeling right now is after seeing what I saw Saturday, no, they need to correct a lot of things. They need to get their mojo back. They need to get disciplined. They need to stop being so simple on offense. It's the same variations of stuff we've seen all year. They're very stubborn about staying in man coverage. But we'll see. TBD on that one, Sean. Good question, but TBD on that one. Thank you for that. This one's from my guy, Alonzo, at Runner XC8. What's up, Alonzo? Hope you're well, my guy. Oh, the U.S. Patent Office shows that GJ, not Texas State, applied to trademark Take Back Texas in September. Whenever GJ leaves San Marcos, does it bother you that the slogan will go with him? That's a catchy phrase the university could have profited from once GJ is gone. See, when I call y'all sickos, this is what I mean. This is checking the patent office for Take Back Texas. I applaud you. I'm not judging. I'm applauding. I'm in awe of you. It's great stuff. I'm okay with it because this is what coaches do. It's party in the end zone with Withers. Jake Spavital didn't have one. That's actually where the whole Agent Bent deal came from. If some of y'all remember that it's around signing day, where Withers trying to bag on the school, mockingly tweeted out "win now or get bent," but he misspelled it with "win now" or "agent bent." That's how he spelled it. That's where the whole Agent Bent thing came along. But he thought he was getting a dig in on Spav because that's what these coaches do is they come up with these slogans. And he thought their recruiting slogan was "win now or get bent." That's just the name of my pod. he's older, man. He's confused about things online, probably. It's what they do. And it's, did you want Texas State to keep partying in the end zone when it didn't work out? Well, this one's working out, and it's one that they came up with. That G.J. Kinney, he's trademarked. It would very much bother me if he left for another Texas team and he took the take back Texas thing. Yeah, that part would bother me, especially if it's UTSA or something. That one would really put a thorn in my side. But it's his slogan. It's his recruiting campaign. It's his marketing slogan. So, yeah, I'd be a little bitter, but I wouldn't be like mad at GJ Kinney for it. It's something that he came up with. His staff came up with. It wasn't something the school came up with. So I'm okay. I do appreciate the research though, Alonzo. That's some great stuff. Shout out to the thought out, thinking ahead and getting that patent for GJ. This one's from Logan, my guy at Logan Beast 23. What's up, Logan? Saw him at a game this season. If Traylor leaves UTSA for a different coaching job, should we be concerned about Kinney going to UTSA? Yeah, a little. I talked about that some on the pod. It's at least, the familiarity with San Antonio, take back Texas thing that we were just talking about. It is a little bit concerning. But, and I got to be honest, all signs seem to point to Traylor being out of there. A&M. That's what it looks like for me. Yes, Texas State should be concerned. It's why I've still, even though after that game, I'm still pay GJ. It may be a little cheaper after that game, but I'm still on that boat. I'm still very much in on GJ Kinney and his staff and what they're building. I think he's a young coach. I think this is a young staff. It's a lot of new players. So there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises. That was a big old bump on Saturday. That was a huge bump. I anticipate their response this week. Very much so. If it's the same old, red flags abound. I don't know if I answered your question properly, but yeah, I would be concerned. I'd be concerned in general. But if he ends the season with just 2 more wins than last year, I'm way less concerned than I was when they hit 6 wins 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago. Thank you, Logan, for that. This one's from my guy, Miguel. I also met Miguel at a game. What's up, Miguel? Last game. If anybody wants to come high five me, man, I'd love to see you. So I love talking with you sickos. It's a blast. I'll come find you. Kev, more of a statement, but these people need to relax. Oh, here you go. GJ should not be fired. Nah, again, I think I just saw one account. You never know with these accounts. Who's making that account? Who has ulterior motives with this anonymous account they've created? So I always, They even, the one who said it, they even tweeted out "Win now or get bent," and I was like, disavow. I disavow that guy. I saw that they tweeted that, and I was like, no. This is not what that title is supposed to be used for, not in this situation. Especially not fire the first-year coach in week 11 after he got you to 6 wins for the first time in nearly a decade. No, you're using it wrong. But yes, I agree with Miguel. This is the best. He's him continuing. This is the best season we've had in a long time. What do we need this offseason to have? More consistency, depth. Specifically at DB, this defense needs a lot of depth if it's going to continue the man coverage. That's a man coverage and an aggressive blitz packages. That's tiring. That's a lot of running around for the defense. So you got to have the bodies for it. They kind of figured that out on the D line. Didn't work out this week, but they need more depth for consistency. Recruiting, they've got to. It was a great recruiting class, 53-man recruiting class last year. They need more. They don't need 53 more. They need a good 30, 35 more. Because there's going to be attrition. There's going to be guys leaving. Top guy on that list for me, and I don't TJ Finley. He's on my radar for I don't know. Feels funny. But so there's going to be changes in the offseason. It's the new day we live in with transfer portal. It's going to be a new team. Won't be as big of a turnover as from last year to this year, but there's going to be some. So they got to recruit. Good stuff, Miguel. Appreciate that one. This is from Silly Rabbit. at Petronillo Garzo. Petronillo Garza. Garza. I don't know why I said Garzo. Sorry about that. On Twitter. What's up, Silly Rabbit? Appreciate this question. Oh, it's a statement. If we don't get to 7 wins, does seriously hurt our chances for a bowl? There's no question mark. I don't really know if that's a question, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Get that 7th win. I hear you, Silly Rabbit. This one's from Angry River Cat. Love that name. Real angry after Saturday, I bet. Should we give men's basketball a chance to get the stars back before calling the season out? Oh, great. Basketball. I appreciate this. I think so, but I'll break that down more. How should we feel about the younger players getting more reps this way? How is the women's team doing more reloading than rebuilding compared to the men's, even though they lost more? Okay, we'll break it down one at a time here. Yeah, I want to wait to see the starters back. I want to see Drennan as the point guard of this offense. Got to have Morgan back in there. And it's probably a wash on Benson. Probably not going to see much of him because of the whole transfer deal. They could really use those threes. I've liked what I've seen early on from the guys that are out there, but there's not enough of them. And so I don't know how to feel about this team yet until I see at least a few more come back. I need 2 or 3 of them minimum back. I mean, to not have a starting 5 and a starting 5 back, or a starting 5 and a backup 5 is pretty eye-opening. I do like the younger players getting more reps. That was the second question he had. I think that this is really good for guys like Caden Gums, and this is good experience for them. The women rebuilding more than the men. The men, they rebuilded. They went out and got a lot of guys. They're just hurt. Which is strange because this happened last year, and so now it's starting to become a pattern, which is concerning. But they were able to go get some more, and shoot, they just announced Nate Deere from Australia. They just signed some more players. I think that I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but they need to tighten that up. He's got another question too. This one looks like it's a football one. It's also from Angry River Cat. Is there a good possibility we lose Hatter after this season? If Cats go 6-6 and there are more teams than bowl games, what's the probability the Cats get snubbed? Which coach is the most likely to leave now? Who has the start right now? A healthy Lincoln Perry or Ishmael Mahdi? Well, I'm going to answer the first one first. It's Mahdi, but Perry would be awesome off the bench. Talking about a second running back they need, that would have been terrific. That'd be such a fun 1-2 punch. Which coach is most likely to leave now? I think it would still have to be Kenny and then a ripple effect. I don't know if anybody's going to get poached quite yet. You know, Mac potentially could, Mac Leftwich. But he's still really young. He's not even 30 yet. So they may still be waiting to see how many of these really good offensive seasons he can stack. Possibility of losing Hatter. I don't, him tweeting out his high school stats are cryptic. Is that him saying, I want to play and I'm ready? Or is that him showing other teams, hey, here's what I've done. Anybody want to come get me in the transfer portal? It is a little concerning. I think a lot of that has to do with what Finley's going to do. I think if Finley has 2 years left, if he sticks around, Hatter may not want to wait, and he may leave. So I think that's something that needs to be taken into account. That it is a good chance. I think Hatter's terrific. This is a PJ Hatter pod. He's the future. We've said it before. If he sticks around, he's the future. So hopefully he can stick around. But we only get to see him once in the other 77-point game, not the one this weekend. So he hadn't put up a ton of tape. So if he enters the transfer portal, he's not going to have a ton of options. He's just not. He's going to have to go play down somewhere probably. His only offer out of high school was Jackson State. Texas State, Jackson State. He was a Jackson State commit. Texas State offered. He flipped. Got my eye on PJ Hatter too. PJ Hatter and TJ Finley. Both ends of the QB roster spot. All right. I have 2 questions. Man, I'm already at 50 minutes. I'm gonna kind of lightning round, but I won't shortchange anybody. I have 2 questions. Should there be some sort of coaching salary cap? Second, let's say you're in charge of the music selection at Bobcat Stadium. What are we rocking to? Classic rock, local bands? Okay. Coaching salary cap? No, I don't. I don't at all. This is America, okay? There shouldn't salary cap in sports. I get it. It's for a competitive advantage. Not the coach. I don't like that. They don't need to. If you want to pay a coach $20 million, pay him $20 million. They can pay him whatever they want. It's not going to work. Jimbo, look at Jimbo Fisher. Shoot, if the Aggies want to pay that man, what is it, $26,000 a day until like 2028? Fine, go for it. You're going to push all your chips in the middle of the table for national championship. Doesn't mean it's going to come. And it does. I don't think there should be any institution to stop somebody from getting paid like that. And while we're at it, pay the players. That's where I'm at too. Everybody should be getting money. Me too. Cut me a check. I need some money over here. Appreciate that. That was from J.E. Heath. I don't even know if I read his deal. At Luther Nerd on X and Twitter. Shout out J.E. Heath. It's another one from our guy, Silly Rabbit. Why have we not gotten a post-game conference? Oh, press conference. I don't, I guess they don't load them after the road because we'll do them on Zoom and they'll record them. And I thought they were loading them like on the YouTube page or anything, but I've gotten that a few times after this one and I've sent it to some people. I'll definitely get a presser pod up. It's been a minute since I've done a presser pod, but didn't realize they weren't coming out on these road trips because we've been talking to them. We talked to them after Coastal as well. I had assumed that people were hearing those. This one's from Sidelines Texas State at SSN_Texas State. What's up, Sidelines Texas State? I see you out there working hard, repping the Bobcats, doing good stuff. This team clearly hasn't been ready to play the last 2 weeks. Do you think 6 wins was the only goal this year? Do you think the players have heard that Coach G.J. Kinney is leaving? Is depth an issue? Have teams figured this out? Or something else? Gosh, man, it might be a combination of all those, if I'm being honest, Sidelines. 6 wins. I don't think it was the only goal this year. I think once they hit that goal, they forgot about the rest of the goals, the rest of the season, which was ensure having a winning season, win a bowl game, things like that. Because right now they could go 6-6 and then lose a bowl game, and they finish 6-7, and we're talking about 10 years since the last time they had a winning record. 10 years. So it's a crazy deal. I lost the question. Where was? There we go. Yeah, I think that they got to 6 and forgot the rest of the situation. Do you think the players heard that G.J. Kinney is leaving? Maybe that may have been a little bit of a distraction for that. I don't think that's to fully attribute that to the loss. I think it has more to do with the next two, depth issue or have teams figured this out. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a depth issue, the defensive backfield specifically, and I think the teams have figured it out offensively that this is what they're going to do. It's almost like they show their whole hand on that first drive, and then they know what to do the rest of the game. So need to see something more this week. Some of the reach deep into that bag and find some of those tricks that they have. This one's from Curtis Spillman at Curtis Spillman 2. Should we hunt hard for a new D coordinator? Seems all we do is blitz and get the most penalties in the Sun Belt. I like Pat Key a lot. It's just his first year here, and they've had some games where the defense really held in there, and they won some games because of the defense, but there's been a lot of moments where it's really bad. I've said all year 35 points. This is a bend, don't break defense. The offense scores 35, then this defense can get you a win. Didn't happen last week. It wouldn't have been enough. They needed 78 from the offense to get a game. And granted, now I should say, I said it earlier, it was 49-17 before these offensive touchdowns. So the whole 77 isn't on them, but they at least get the first 50. This was pretty bad. But I'm not in the fire Pat Key camp. Not there yet. I think it's too hasty to have a good season. And okay, if you're gonna fire coaches when after not being so good for so long, and then you finally have a season where you get to win 6, and then you start firing coaches, who the hell's gonna come here? You can't just flippantly fire Pat Key right now. I mean, it's game 11. So no, I'm very much not in that camp. I'm not into firing anybody. Nobody needs to be fired after that one. That sucked. And they need to do better. They need to yell at somebody in practice, have some damn pride, and not lose 77-31 in conference. But no, nobody should be fired. But it's worth talking about, Curtis. Don't mean to dismiss your question. Appreciate you there. This one's from CP White at CP White 44. What's up, my guy? Since jumping in the river November 4th, our team and staff appear to have had their mission accomplished photo op. Question: was it stated publicly or privately prior to starting the season that bowl eligibility, the actual or final goal of this team? No. I mean, no. Come on. Listen. Everybody got excited about bowl eligibility. And it's been a humbling 2 weeks since they jumped into the river. It wasn't the only goal of the year. It's not like they're hanging it up now. This team, it was the goal. It was the main goal of the year, was to get to bowl eligibility. But, people say act like you've been there before. Haven't been there before. Bobcats didn't know how to act. Nobody knew what to do, and now it's not looking so great. But no, it was definitely not the only goal going into the year. This one's from Texan Vet at Cowboy Texan 75. Already asked previously about the QB room. Other question: how banged up are we? I know secondary-wise we are, but what about the trenches? Offensive line, so Dorian Strawn was out this game. That's why Chase Todd started. Remember him, he's the Houston transfer. Another one of those, they've got such a big offensive line this year. Even when the backups come in, they're 320 pounds. But they have been, the last couple weeks, these two games specifically, they've lost. It has been a bit of musical chairs with the offensive line. Nash Jones being reinserted to the lineup, which moved Trenton Scott to the other side. Dorian Strawn, he's injured, so he's been out, which means Chase Todd is now in there. We saw Chase Todd when Caleb Johnson was banged up a little bit. He went in there at center. So we've seen it's been a little bit of musical chairs on the offensive line. They've had, after having such a really strong season, and it still was a pretty good game on Saturday that wasn't on the offense. Nobody had a great game Saturday, but the loss wasn't because of the offensive line, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But they still they're still figuring out who's going where a lot on that offensive line. I think receiver they're banged up there. We saw Herbert go down again last game. Looked like GJ said after the game in the press conference that it wasn't a head injury, but it was still a concerning deal after he missed the Coastal game. He comes back, scores a touchdown. This offense really needs that weapon, because I think at receiver they're not the deepest at the receiver position. They're not very deep at running back. They started the season, Lincoln Perry, Josh Berry out, but then as the season has progressed, it feels like they've gone less and less. I don't know where Calvin Hill is. Defensive backfield, they're banged up there. That was I guess in the first half there was a little bit of it. Was that Culp didn't play the first half because of the targeting against Coastal, and he came back at safety. We saw Josh Eaton get hurt though, the starting corner. It's nobody's out for an exorbitant. It's not like anybody has a serious injury outside of guys who are out for the season. Torrey Spears, Lincoln Perry, guys like that have mentioned. Aside from that, it just feels like everybody's a little bit banged up. It even feels like Finley's a little bit banged up. That's how it looked against Coastal. He played the whole game against Arkansas State, but a little bit banged up. And I think that's going to bode well for this team for when the season does end. Regular season ends on Saturday, and they find out where they go in the bowl game. They'll find out on December 3rd where they're going to play. They're going to have at least 3 weeks before the next bowl game, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks before, if they get the earliest bowl. That's going to be huge for this team to get healthy. And I think it's going to be huge for these coaches, because these are, I think about that Baylor game and how they had all summer to prepare for Baylor, and they came out with a terrific game plan, because they're smart guys. They're young guys. So they talk about it all the time. They like them to play loose and free, and with that loose and free, sometimes it comes undisciplined, and it has shown that on the field. They play loose and free. They like to blitz a lot. They play man coverage. They want to get space on offense. But they're going to learn to get the discipline side of it down as they get older. That's what happens. The older you get as a person, you get more discipline. At least that's how it should be. That's how you progress in life, and I think that's how you progress in your career as a coach as well. So they'll get to that part. But when they had all summer to prepare for Baylor, and they came out, terrific game plan. So whenever they find out who their opponent is on December 3rd, they're going to have a couple weeks of rest and a couple weeks to study the tape and the tendencies and the scheme of their opponent. I think that's going to bode well for this coaching staff that has shown that they can really dive in on specific teams they shouldn't beat, like Baylor. I really trailed off on the question, didn't I? Yeah, they're pretty banged up. There's your synopsis for you, Texan vet. But that's a good end. It's a good end to it. I'm sorry if I didn't make your question. I'm at an hour, and like I said, we'll keep it brief. I'll look through and see. I know I missed some DM questions, and we'll get them on the next one. Do a little extra mailbag finish. But check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/whennourgetbent, WNOGB.com for our merch. Get all swagged out for the off season. Check out our YouTube channel, When Now I Get Bent, on YouTube. If you're watching already, thank you. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, all that great stuff. Check us out on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at When Now I Get Bent over there. On Instagram, at WNOGB. Thank you to TGC, Balcones Roofing and Remodeling, Thaddeus Watkins, your San Marcos Edward Jones financial advisor, and Austin Patchmaster. And thank you to the wizard, Zachary Webb. He's back. He's back producing this episode, fighting through the fog. Really appreciate you, bud. I'm glad to hear you're doing better. I hope you are back to 100% so we can crush this last game. One last home game for these Bobcats. It's been a really fun season. Don't let that get you down too much, that loss. Up and down. I had a tweet about it where I kind of gave a one-sentence synopsis of each game, and it was very much an up and down season. I was about to read it, but we're gonna end it. I'll read it on the next one. But thank you again to Zach Webb, and thank you to you, the sickos. It's nothing without you. I'd be shouting into the void my misery of the Bobcats putting up 77, allowing 77. See, I'm so used to them putting up 77. That happened earlier in the year, and then it happened to them in the same year. Boy, what a season. Weird year. What a time. What a time to be a Bobcat, huh? Still proud over here. Hope you are too. I know you are, sickos. All right, everybody. We'll get a preview pod before the next game. Look out for that one. Win now or get bent.